Hello, welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. I am out here on a beautiful Tuesday morning with the horses. We've got Atlas and Raz behind me and Ocasio coming around the corner. And Sassafras is hiding behind Atlas. So yeah, beautiful Tuesday. I neglected to bring my tea with me today, so this is a tealess Tuesday, I guess. But it fits right along with the subject for today, which was, I thought I'd talk a little bit about how busy summertime gets. For those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, the days are getting longer, the weather is beautiful, and I feel like there's this urgency to pack as much into every beautiful day as possible before it gets rainy or cold or wintry again. I don't know if any of you resonate with that, but I for sure am feeling that as the summer goes on. So there is a wisdom to timing that I've been pondering a little bit. And this feeling that time is very limited and we want to do as much as we possibly can do in the time we have, and yet somehow you lose some quality when you're trying to fit quantity in. So I've just been thinking a little bit about the wisdom of timing and trying to decide when quantity is perhaps the most important, when quality is perhaps the most important. And quality of time is really about how much that time can be enjoyed by those of us experiencing it, the horses, the humans, whoever it is that is experiencing that time. So the wisdom of this is really about knowing what's important to you. And sometimes it will be the quantity of things you can fit in a day. Sometimes in training horses, it'll be the quantity of tasks you can teach them so that they know how to do those tasks. But sometimes it will be how we feel while we're doing the thing. And so this came up for me. I went to the beach this week with my first Mustang, Saavedra, and a friend and her horse. And it was really fun because Saavedra's been to the beach before. She knows how to go to the beach. She's not too overwhelmed by the sights and the smells and the sounds. But I often find students are really surprised by how overwhelming the beach environment is for horses. The smell of the salt, the crash of the waves, the movement of the water, the shifting sands underneath their feet. All of these experiences that you have at the beach are going to be very, very different from the experiences they have in their own home pastures with their own herd. Unless they grew up at the beach, which most horses in my area didn't. So this idea of understanding the terrain and the situation you're in and measuring the degree of overwhelming sensations your horse is receiving from that environment and just taking that into account. Now, when you go to the beach and the horse is really overwhelmed, what's going to happen is they're going to want to leave. They're going to want to go back to some environment that is less overwhelming to their senses, that is more moderate, more familiar. And you have some choices there. And the choices are going to be, do you put pressure on them to stay until they go through the emotional cycle and they come out the other side, and then they find it's not as overwhelming as it was before because they've become accustomed to it. That takes some pressure. It's usually going to take some tools. You'll need a halter or whatever it is that you have to keep the horse in the place that's overwhelming for them until that cycle of emotions passes. Now, this is an option, and this would be one of those things where I say the quantity of skills has become more important than the quality of the experience. So if I'm training in a freedom-based training way, I need to go near the beach, take a smell of it, and then leave again to process that. Go near, look at the waves a little bit, leave before it's overwhelming, process that, and come back again. And that requires a great deal of commitment and time to approach a new environment in a way that is not overwhelming to the senses. Hey, Andrea, good to see you here at tea time. So when I filmed the end of the movie with Myrna, I rented a cabin at the beach, and I rented the cabin at the beach for 2 weeks so that Myrna and I would have enough time to break that experience of a new place and a new environment into the small enough pieces that she would be willing to do it in freedom. But not everybody has that kind of time. And so there's a wisdom to understanding what you need to get done and how much time you have to get it done in. And if you don't have the luxury of 2 weeks to introduce your horse to the beach, one smell at a time, one sight at a time, a couple of sounds at a time, going home to process it or retreating to process it in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming, that's where the beauty of tools comes in. Your halter, your line, your bridle, whatever tools you need to use to hold the horse in the experience long enough for them to realize they can enjoy it. They don't need to run away from the unfamiliar. And people will often do this with food rewards too. That's another option. But the wisdom is knowing how much time do you have and how much do you want to break down each part of a skill so that it can be enjoyed one sensation at a time? Or are you in a little bit of a hurry because we're all trying to pack a lot into every day, which means we would then use the right tool for the job and hold the horse in the experience until they went through the emotional cycle, they came out the other side, and they started to realize that they could isolate which sense they paid attention to. They don't have to pay attention to all the senses at the same time. They can pay attention to a sound or a sight or a smell. They don't have to process all three at the same time. And that's what the beauty of tools does for us, is it helps us hold a horse in an experience for long enough that they learn how to cope with an overwhelming amount of new stimuli. Now, it sounds odd for me, who doesn't really use tools, to be talking about the beauty of tools, but I just want to be really practical about what is and is not possible. So for those of you wanting to introduce your horses to new experiences, it is always going to be a choice. Break it down small enough that they can enjoy it, retreat and process it, enjoy it, retreat and process it, and continue until they have the entire skill. Or use the right tool for the job so that you can support them through those moments. They might naturally want to go to fight or flight, get out of the situation that feels too overwhelming for them. I think that as a human, I hold myself in a lot of situations that are overwhelming for me because I really want the skills that come from feeling the pressure of life. So if you want to be able to run fast for a mile, you could build up to it very, very slowly over weeks and months and years, and that's probably the best for your body. But if you're like me, you might want to be able to run a mile very fast in a much shorter period of time, which means you're going to set it up so you run until your lungs burn, you run until your legs feel like they can't carry you anymore, and then you process that, and then you do it again. And those feelings of pressure create faster progress. It's my observation that horses are never going to sign up for those feelings of pressure voluntarily unless there's a big extrinsic motivator, like the right food reward, or the pressure of the halter, or the pressure of being all alone if they don't stay with their herd that's in that environment. There has to be some really big extrinsic motivator for a horse to sign up for that feeling of pressure that makes for faster progress. As a human, I can volunteer that for myself. But in my horse relationships, I choose to put pressure on my horses in such small amounts that they're willing to enjoy it with me. They're willing to use their senses and enjoy a little bit of pressure at a time. And we just build it up in the smallest steps so that they can do more and more things very, very gradually. That means if I want to take my horses to the beach, I probably need a week or 2 weeks to accustom them to those new sensations, those new feelings, all of those new things. I can do it in a day if you give me a halter. But if you take away my halter, I'm going to probably need more time. Unless I have done a ton of work at home and I've built an incredibly strong sensory system in my horse that can process more than the average horse. And that's what I'm working on. I am working on how we build a very, very strong sensory system that regulates itself so the horse can handle and voluntarily sign up for perhaps a little bit more pressure than it would naturally do. If we can take a little bit more pressure, we can do a few more fun things. But it's always going to be in a balance. If you lower the pressure, you can probably smell a few more roses along the way, enjoy the sensations of every experience a little bit more, and really live life to its fullest. If you're willing to take a little bit more pressure, you can go farther, you can go faster, you can get more done. So those are my thoughts for today. You can think about where it is that you fall on that spectrum, and it's going to change. Different times of your life, different skills, different tasks, and different goals you have with your horses. So I think all of us can benefit from taking some time every day to slow down and really use our senses to the fullest and build our sensory system without trying to live in a life full of pressure. But sometimes a little bit more pressure is okay too. So thanks for joining me for tea time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that's a little bit of thought-provoking conversation for you on this Tuesday. Lucy, yeah, it's good to see you here. It's interesting thoughts. So enjoy the replay. I'm glad you got to join the tail end of it, and I will see you guys all next week.